I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Jody.
Anthony Reynolds.
Here.
Eugene Sullivan.
Here.
Stephanie Euler. Jonathan Smith.
Here.
Brian Venziano.
Here.
Debbie Koalas. Here. David Hart.
Here.
Aubrey Searway. She graduated. And Hannah Waning.
Okay, could I get an approval for minutes for May 4th?
So move.
Second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Chair comments? I don't have any. Student reports? We don't have any students. Boy, we are going to get through this tonight quick. Superintendent's report.
Can I take the mic? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course you can. Can use mine if needed.
Good evening, school committee members and community members. I'm excited to share our success with this year's district goals in the areas of academics, teacher leadership, and financial sustainability. Before I begin my presentation, however, I'd like to extend congratulations to the Herman High School class of 2026. We celebrated the awarding of high school diplomas to 117 students at the Cross Center this past Friday evening. These young people are industrious, thoughtful, and whether joining the workforce right away or heading off to college are destined for a bright future. The middle school promotion ceremony for 8th grade students will be on Wednesday evening in the high school gymnasium, and the grade 4 promotion and concert will be this Friday. The last day of classes is Monday, June 15th. This is also the final meeting for school committee members Brian Venziano and Stephanie Euler. They helped to guide the Herman school community through some challenging times, and we're appreciative of their service and leadership. Hannah let me know over the weekend when I saw her at softball. She has a game tonight off campus. She was hoping that if it didn't go into overtime that her parents would get her back. So we'll see if she makes it. Otherwise, we hope she enjoys a great summer. And we'll see her back in September with Peyton Stevens, who is going to be our other student liaison. And we'll talk more about her later and Debbie's role in helping to select her. So this is the point in the year where I am able to report out on the progress of our district goals. Our school committee members will recall that in September, I spoke with all of you about the strategic plan that we developed and then the annual district goals that result from that. And you had a brief progress report in January when we talked about new course recommendations. And so here's our chance to really delve into what was accomplished over the year. And I'm really excited about the work that we've done. Just a reminder, our mission statement for Herman High School is preparing students for personal success in college, career, and community. And we do that through the coursework that we offer, through the service opportunities, and the co-curricular programs that we run not only at the high school, but in our K-12 arena. So we have 3 district goals that stem from our strategic planning goals. The first overarching goal is to cultivate an academic environment that fosters critical thinking, creativity, and innovation. Specifically within that broader goal, we pledged this year to develop a curriculum renewal plan. And I know that David and Jean on our curriculum technology committee have had a number of conversations with us about that. That is complete. The plan is ready, and we're moving through what we pledged to do this year with regard to social studies and media literacy. We pledged to define the school department's vision for generative AI board members, committee members may recall back in December, we had some teachers give a presentation on how they're using Magic School in their classrooms, and that work will continue. We had a number of professional training sessions for our staff throughout the winter, and we will be renewing that opportunity again as we open school in late August. We pledged to create and implement a digital literacy program in K through 8 that promotes online safety, research best practices, and ethical use of technology. That work has begun, and with the hopeful hiring of a middle school media specialist, we'll have another professional on board to assist us with that work. We pledged to establish a plan for grade 4 elementary band instruction, and that is in place. Our high school band members visited the elementary school a few weeks ago and offered a show and tell for students so that they would know what instruments were available to them, and they'll make those selections in the fall as 4th graders. And then we also pledged to identify grade 4 students for accelerated grade 4 math for the coming school year, and that work is complete. I'll talk a little bit more about that in later slides. So when we talk about offering accelerated grade 4 math, I shared this slide with all of you a few months back. So right now, the top row is our general pathway. That's what we have right now, beginning in grade 4. It's a general grade 4 math program, and then students go into a general grade 5 math program, and differentiation doesn't start currently until grade 6. So once students enter grade 6, they might take regular grade 6 math, and then 7th grade and 8th grade, or they may be ready for an honors pathway that would bring them through pre-algebra and algebra by grade 8. By beginning an accelerated math program in grade 4 in the fall, that allows us the following year in 2027-28 to implement a grade 5 honors math program. And then you'll see the trajectory for those students is increased by not only getting them through algebra in middle school, but having them in a geometry class in grade 8. Currently, when we have students who are ready for geometry, they take the little bus over to the high school, and those teachers graciously welcome those kids in for advanced math instruction. My goal, my vision is to make sure that we're supporting students with strong math instruction so that we don't need to transport them to the high school. And we have a class size ready to take geometry in grade 8. This also required some changes to our gifted and talented program, and our committee members will recall through our budgeting conversations that one of the positions we needed to reduce out was our gifted and talented coordinator. What we have in the middle column is what our traditional gifted and talented program has looked like this year and in previous years. So at the elementary school, the program begins in grade 4. The program consists of pull-out activities a few days a week, and this year, 7 students were identified for gifted and talented instruction. What I'm pledging through the inclusion of accelerated math is that accelerated math becomes one core focus of our gifted and talented program. By offering grade 4 band, we also offer another strand of the gifted and talented program. And then our goal through professional development next year and in the years beyond is to really work with our teachers to help them differentiate for English, reading, and math instruction. Our programs to support our below-level readers and mathematicians are extremely strong. I like to work with our teachers to help them with how do you teach when you already have strong readers in your class? How do you teach when you already have sophisticated writers in your class? And what does that look like? So you'll see the traditional program for elementary school, grade 4, and what we're pledging to bring in not only services more students, but it also, I think, reaches a broader array of our student body in really healthy ways. In the middle school, there's really very little change. Currently, the traditional program for gifted and talented includes those math classes that are listed there and Invention Convention, which is by choice for students. There are also pull-out activities for reading up to twice a week, and then there's band and assorted field trips. Where we aim to go is to continue all of those math classes, eventually adding in a grade 5 honors level math. The same differentiation that we will be working with our teachers on at the elementary school will come to our middle school as well. I also want to eventually have a conversation with our administrators and our school committee members about the possibility of offering a grade 8 language arts honors level class, so that we're identifying those students, giving them more sophisticated reading and writing opportunities before they go into grade 9 at the high school. Because we're adding chorus now to our middle school, which is super exciting. Now we not only have students with the opportunity to take band, which they've had, but also a chorus class, and then those same art class and field trips continue. And there's no change at the high school between what we do now with gifted students and what we will be doing with gifted students. There's a Scholar Diploma program that will still be in place. It's just simply that instead of our gifted and talented coordinator overseeing that, that will be overseen by one of our guidance counselors. And we'll continue to run the advanced placement classes, the honors classes, and the dual enrollment classes. So when I talk about a shift in our gifted and talented program, it really means more students being serviced, more opportunities beyond just pull-out classes, and I think a richer environment for our students. Hannah, how did you do?
We won.
Yay!
Good.
Congratulations. And then briefly, as far as curriculum renewal, we talked that this is the year or the beginning of a 3-year sequence where we're focusing on social studies and technology. Our school committee members will recall we've already talked about taking some of our full year classes at the high school in the electives and bringing them down to a semester level. And then grade 5 and grade 7 social studies will be rewritten this summer to reflect a new scope and sequence that we have in place. This is a quick glimpse at what K through 8 will begin to look like in social studies. You have it in your packet on paper. This will also be posted to our district website. But just as a quick overview, what's different, this really offers a developmentally appropriate layer from year to year to year. So we're moving from a local to a global perspective. So think of it in kindergarten and grade 1. Local means you're learning about how to be a good citizen in your class, how to be a good member in your family. And then by the time you move into grade 2, it's, okay, what does the town of Herman look like? And what does governance in the town of Herman look like? And then by grade 3, we're moving into what does governance in Maine and in the nation look like? And in grade 4, it's back to a focus on, per state standards, a focus on Maine and Maine's place in the nation and in the world. And then as we go into 5th through 8th grade, a really strong background in world history and U.S. history before students head into their grade 9 class at the high school. So I'm excited about this. The teachers on our committee have been doing really incredible work, and I think this sets us up for, again, a really strong high school experience for our students, but a sequence that makes sense as our children travel from kindergarten through 8th grade. Our second batch of goals speaks to energizing district, school, and teacher leadership to create an innovative and dynamic learning community. Specifically here, we are focusing on professional development opportunities that promote teacher leadership. You have all had shared with you what our professional development schedules have looked like. You've seen the number of teachers who are presenting or co-presenting workshops to their colleagues, which is super exciting. We've also have teachers serving on our curriculum committees, on our professional development committees, and on our AI committees. As school committee members, you were incredibly supportive of my proposal to identify 2 administrative interns to essentially take the place of what had been our curriculum coordinator, our curriculum director. That's gone extremely well. The 2 folks that we identified are just a powerhouse and have really elevated the work that we're all doing. So we're going to continue all that work moving forward. A lot of the tasks under this second mission were really laying the groundwork to begin to move this forward. And finally, under goal number 3, to ensure institutional and financial sustainability in the face of economic and demographic challenges. We know we are in a hopefully small period of declining enrollment, and that presents its own challenges as far as staffing, but as far as funding and budgeting as well. We pledged to partner with the town to generate a fiscally sustainable budget that supports district goals, and we've done that. We pledged to conduct an energy audit, and we were fortunate to be one of the first schools to partner with the Maine Department of Education for a free energy audit, and that is still underway. Tony joined us in a meeting a few weeks ago to get a look at some of the initial data, and they're doing another data collection, and we should be back to talk with them, if not by the end of June, through July. We pledged to develop a long-range facility plan. That is in place. To develop a district technology plan, that is in place, and both of those will inform our budgets moving forward so that we know the projects that take priority, we can determine what needs to be done and how we allocate the appropriate funding for that. And finally, we pledge to publish regular district newsletters, not only to promote the school district, but to keep our public informed of budget information, and that has been done. School committee members, you've had access to those each month as they come out. Those are all posted to the district website. They're shared with our town leadership, and they're shared with Mark Turner in RSU 87. Just briefly as a reminder on our budgeting, since this Thursday is our town hall meeting at Herman High School in the auditorium. This is a look back at the Herman School Department's budget history and our FY27 budget that, after much deliberation and a lot of communication, has come in at a 2.11 overall expense percent increase. What are the benefits? What's such a big deal about all that we've accomplished this year? Well, from a sustainability standpoint, not only from a fiscal, but also from an institutional standpoint, with long-range planning in place, it lets us be more informed planners, and it lets us really be keener budgeters about where we're pledging to put money into projects. We're continuing to focus on teacher leadership and growth, not only through our intern program, but by having peer-led professional development sessions. We had a number of teachers express interest in the national teacher certified accreditation, and we've been offered an opportunity to buddy up with RSU 22 because they have people specifically on staff to support their teachers with that. So that's super exciting to see if our teachers follow through with that. We have new academic frontiers opening, not only with accelerated grade 4 math, but with the use of generative AI in our high school, where we can welcome kids into protected classroom spaces and let them work with AI under teacher guidance. With the infusion also of expanded visual and performing arts classes and pledging to update the audio system at the high school auditorium, this really opens the way for a really strong performing program, musical and choral program. And those are all things that not only benefit our students and our families, but are another way to draw the Herman community into our schools. And so that's a brief overview of what this year has looked like. It's always a pleasure to be reminded of the important goals that we set for ourselves and then what's been accomplished at the end of the year. Where we go from here is that I'll be working with our administrative team over the summer through our leadership retreats to define within the strategic plan goals that we've set out, what are the next steps? Now that we've done this, what logically does this turn into? And then I'll be back in September with all of you. You'll see drafts in advance, but I'll be back in September to share out what next year's district goals will be looking like. Hannah, I want to take a minute because we also have something for you. But let me bring my things back up. We gave this to Aubrey last month because that was her final month, but this is for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for a great year. I know I see you everywhere. I see you in choral programs. I see you on the field, and the fact that you still make time to be here and to be so informed, we really appreciate it. So,
of course, it's a pleasure to be here.
You get the summer off.
Okay, we'll go back to student reports so we can hear from Hannah, at least the update on the baseball game.
I don't think baseball played today.
I mean softball game.
Oh, we won.
Yes.
12-0.
Wow.
We had all of our sports teams make it to playoffs, and for track, we had multiple podium finishes in the state track meet. Baseball and softball both play on Thursday. Baseball is against Old Town here at 3:30, and softball is unknown right now. Boys tennis won the Northern Mains for the first time in team history. They played Caribou at 1:30 at Colby College. Deja Grant broke a 29-year state record in triple jump. We had our class graduation on Friday, and we had our class day on Thursday, where we recognized everyone for their academic achievement throughout the year.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, now we'll skip down to subcommittee reports. Brian, could you do the finance one?
Sure. So the finance, I need to make sure this is on. Is it on? So the finance committee met last week, and first thing we did was we reviewed the May cost center report with Ms. Youngblood. It was presented to us. We're projecting a 94.7% utilization of the FY26 budget. That includes approximately $150,000 of non-FY26 budgetary expenses that were primarily to get us ahead in 27, such as the bus radios that we discussed and the auditorium upgrades that we discussed last month. So that would be that comes out to be a $1.1 million surplus over this year's budget. That will result in approximately $550,000 going back into adding to the fund balance that we've been looking at. There's an expenditure trend. I think all of you had the expenditure trend sheet, where it should be part of your packet. You'll see that the expenditure trend year to date is tracking somewhat below what we have had as last year, and that's thanks to the financial oversight that we've got from the superintendent and making sure that we're staying on our funding needs. The high school cafeteria put forth a spending plan to make sure that their funds stay within the regulatory requirements, and that included a table replacement plan, equipment bid out, as well as a tilt skillet for the German school. That are all part of that plan, and that you'll see further on in our agenda tonight for approving. We discussed the salvage of equipment when some of the kitchen equipment was replaced earlier this year, I should say this quarter. Some of the equipment was disposed of, and they were in poor conditions, and there wasn't anything worth salvaging there anyway. So we just wanted to cover our bases that was discussed. Equipment bid out. There are items such as old copiers that need to be disposed of, as well as the 1-ton pickup truck with plow and sand attachment. Those need to be disposed of. So the school has followed the policy and has checked with the town to see if any of that equipment is something that the town would be interested in which they are not, and then it is going to the bid.gov or what was the exact, is it bid.gov or?
GovDeals.
GovDeals for people to go out and bid on. We discussed the cell phone ban and that it came with some funding. That funding has been projected, it has not arrived yet. We talked about a few ideas that it could be used for, but that will be put into place when we look at the cell phone personal device policy, and it can be discussed later on how that money is best used. And then later in the agenda tonight will be the approval of transfer up to 5% to cover cost centers that have been over budget, and the two items that are over budget are the administrative fees and transportation and systems administration. And those will be discussed later on in the agenda. Did you have anything you thought I missed, Mr. Chair?
No, you didn't miss anything.
Thank you.
You never do. Okay, John, you got touted for the policy minute?
Here we go. So on June 1st, Debbie Kowalis, myself, Zachary Freeman, Chelsea Panett, Barbara Sargent, Melissa Davis, Brian Walsh, and Allison LeClaire met to talk policy. And so for second read consideration, we looked at KLGR, relations with law enforcement authorities, administrative procedure, and its sibling KLGA, relations with school resource officers and law enforcement authorities. You'll notice tonight, we're going to talk about this later, new language was added. There was feedback at the last meeting about a question about why in policy it said schools aren't obligated to entertain law enforcement. So we accepted an edit that says when law enforcement is seeking to execute a warrant for a student and doing so outside of school hours is not feasible, school administrators may consider requests for assistance on a case-by-case basis. However, schools are generally not required to make students or school facilities available for non-school related investigations or arrests. So more on that to come later, I'm sure. CBI was discussed, which is the evaluation of the superintendent. Timelines from the original policy, AFB, are included in this new iteration. The evaluation template and job description are both now linked in this policy. No change recommended to EHB records management or to EFE competitive food sales. And the subcommittee reviewed the opening sentence and recommended keeping the language intact. I think there was just agreement that even though there are maybe multiple viewpoints about what sound nutrition is, I think we thought I think we toyed around with the idea of like any reasonable person might think of that as adequate protein, fruits, vegetables, minimal starches, things like that. So probably more to come on that later as well. No change to or abolish EFD meal charging, and then no changes to EFC free lunch, EBCD closing school, and EBAB operations and maintenance policy for asbestos. So then for first read consideration, we looked at EBBC, bomb threats, BEDH, public comments at board meetings, and JIJC, cell phone free schools. Both of those are going to lean heavily on MSMA recommended language. And so we will, I think, dig into that further as well.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, technology and curriculum, is that going to be Dave or Dean or both?
All right. Well, thank you, Chair. So on June 1st, we had a meeting. Attending was myself, Dr. Sargent, David Hart, and Alex Bridges. Dr. Sargent provided the curriculum renewal plan and explained the addition of a science evaluation during the 2026-2027 year. Summer curriculum writing tasks were presented. Dr. Sargent is meeting with each educator to provide a curriculum template and outline the work. Dr. Sargent discussed improvements to the gifted and talented program, which I think she discussed a little bit today. Accelerated math grade 4 will begin in September. Criteria for recommendation is in the fall, NWEA 197 plus, winter, NWEA 206 plus, spring, and NWEA 213 plus. Unit test average, 80% of total points equals 161. First 5 units. Teacher recommendation, COGAT testing above 80%. Grade 4 band, middle school chorus, projected for 2027-2028, honors ELA 8 and honors math 5. Mr. Bridges updated the committee on the Chromebook rollout, noting the school department's goal of having a single Chromebook platform for students in grades 3 through 12. iPads are used in the primary grades. Many of the school's smart boards were purchased with COVID funding and are ready for replacement. A phased approach is in place with Promethean boards, eventually replacing smart boards. Mr. Bridges will provide training for staff at the beginning of the year for those with new devices in their classrooms.
Thank you. Okay, guys, all set? I'm going to open up this part of the meeting for public comment. Is there anybody here that would like to speak?
All I could say just succinctly, if I don't stay on my paper, there's a lot of information that you'll need.
You get a microphone?
Yeah, you can grab this one.
Or the chair.
Haley Keyser Herman. Still not listening. Is that better?
Yes.
After years of speaking as a child advocate, one of the things I want to bring. Oops. Ah. Oh. After speaking of children's best interest and an advocate for schools, I have this all mixed up. Oh my goodness. All right, here's the point. You guys have a policy that you're putting forward regarding censoring communication for public speaking. I find this incredibly ironic considering that I was an outspoken advocate about vulgar, sexually explicit material that is available to the kids that are within this very library. The fact that you guys are bringing a policy forward that outlines vulgar and explicit obscene language is hypocritical at best, considering what the kids are exposed to daily. This was brought as a lawsuit. A parent brought this lawsuit against the Augusta School Board over this same policy, and actually some of our current policy, and the court made a ruling. The ruling stated that the terms, I don't know how this happened. The Supreme Court recently ruled against the Augusta School Board. The ruling stated that the policy must allow complaints, gossip, and vulgar language, and that the chair is not allowed to stop such speech, and doing so would violate the rights. Defamation, criticism, harsh comments, and accusations or statements that officials don't like does not qualify as defamation. The ruling states that these terms can mean different things to different people and may allow officials to silence criticism simply because it's uncomfortable, unpopular, or strongly worded. Public comment period exists so community members can express concerns about matters of public importance, including criticism of school policies and official. In the past, your law firm, you were requiring a sign-up sheet. In the past, your law firm has validated that free speech is open to everyone regardless of their location. Most of these policies that you guys are trying to instill are actually already in the policy if you fully read it. I feel that this policy isn't actually to protect children, which I feel that you guys are using children in this policy as a scapegoat to try to control and win this argument. And if you actually cared about the children, you would have cared about the books. This isn't about protecting children. This is censorship, and it's protecting you guys from having to hear from your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley.
I'll also be emailing you a policy that I have from a law firm that complies with the law.
Okay, thank you. Dan Chase?
I have very similar concerns. The right of free speech is the right to have offensive speech. I have the right to tell you to go to hell, and you got the right to tell me I'm going to get there first. I have the right to tell you you're the most incompetent, horrendous government employee that's ever existed because you did this, that, and the other thing, and I can't believe you did the other thing. You don't have the right to block me from saying that under the First Amendment. First, petition for redress of grievances. This guy is a moron, whoever it may be. He's done all of this wrong. I want it fixed. Now you're telling me that I can't call him out in public? Why are you violating the First Amendment? Why do you even propose it? She's worried about the kids. I'm not. I'm worried about the Constitution.
Yeah.
If you think that your emotions, your feelings override the Constitution, you need to step down. You have no place at all in government. And I tell you this, and I'm one of the few people in the country who would say it. I, like every other Maine citizen, am a public master. You are all public servants. You are bound to obey us. I don't mean I can tell you to hold a meeting at 5:47. But when we have these rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, and that is the written will of the governed, and you say, I want to make an exception, no, not allowed. If you want to take and feel, oh, that makes me feel bad, quit, if that's what you're doing. I had relatives that worked in town offices for years. One day, father had somebody call up that was really ripping and roaring. He put the phone in the drawer, shut it, and checked the phone a while later. True story. You can't violate people's rights. You can't say, I don't have the right to say that you are incompetent. You can't say, I don't have the right to say that this is a horrible policy. And you can't say, I'm special. You cannot criticize me because I got a government job. If you want to destroy the country, this is where it begins. Small rights violations locally that go to bigger rights violations at the state, that go to massive rights violations federally. And the next thing you know, it's 1776 all over again. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's happening in the next few years. But eventually, the way things are going, yes. Probably after I'm dead. I'm not calling for it, I'm just saying it's what I see coming if this type of policy keeps going, where you're screwing with everybody's rights because as a government employee, you're special. Now, did I make it clear what the First Amendment involves? Or is there any question at all? You see, I care about our rights. I don't care about your feelings. Unfortunately, you made the same mistake I made at one point. You decided to work for government. And that comes with some serious restrictions. And the weird thing is, I cannot violate the First Amendment because the First Amendment only limits those in government, not those outside. I bet most of you don't even know there's a preamble to the 10 Amendments. It says that these are further restrictions and limitations on government. When I put limits on you, I don't mean individually, then you are limited and you cannot say, but I don't like being limited, I can't do it. Then quit. Get an amendment to change it. But live within what our rights are and what your duties are. Because you must have taken the same oath that legislators and the governor take to support the Constitution of the United States in this state in order to sit there. That is not ceremonial. That means whenever you see a potential violation of the Constitution, you're going to stand up and say, you can't do that. That ain't acceptable in these here parts. Constitution don't allow it. I tell you, you must have an IQ of about 27 to even think you could pass that. That is what support the Constitution means. Truth is, I didn't take that oath. I went in the Marine Corps and I took an oath to defend the Constitution, which is a lot worse for what it requires and a lot higher price for what it can take from me. I'm done. I've told you what it's about. I've told you my objections. You will either recognize that the First Amendment recognizes the right to petition, including the right to call you out for being evil, fraudulent, corrupt people, even incorrectly. And then, yes, you can respond appropriately. I'm not saying you don't have that right naturally. Or you can say the Constitution doesn't apply, your rights don't apply, and you just slowly push us to the point where the government will be destroyed from within. It's your call. I'm done.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
No, okay.
Yep, just make it quick.
I will. I was curious also since how the graduation went being on a Friday. And then the other question is, when did Stephanie give her resignation?
Okay. Would you like to answer that?
Graduation was wonderful. A lot of the parents came up to Mr. Walsh at the end of the evening and just commented on how beautiful a recognition it was. They were glad to be there. There was no issue with parking or anything with
But
traffic
being on a
related
Friday,
at
like
all.
that was okay. Families had no complaints at work.
There were no complaints, and actually what prompted us to move toward a Friday was that Mr. Walsh began
Right.
first with the senior class, and asked them what they thought of it, and the students really preferred that time. They thought it would give them more of an evening opportunity to celebrate with the families, and anyone who was coming in for the weekend would have the rest of the weekend to stay with them.
Good.
So it went very well.
And then the second part was, when did Stephanie give her resignation?
It was at the end, it was either the day of or the following day of our last school committee meeting in May.
Thank you.
Effective 30 June, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
Correct.
But regardless, that should have been made aware because they're having an election and that could have been addressed.
No, it can't, it won't.
So you're gonna do the 6 months?
No, there can't be an election until November, Haley. No matter what, with the Herman bylaws. So, just because somebody resigns, if there's a bunch of people that already have their names in, you can't just say, okay, we've got another seat open, who wants to be a write-in? It has to go through state laws and regulation, and Kristen knew that, so I believe there'll be one in November.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, may I add one extra thing?
Sure, as long as it's quick.
It is. Under 18 U.S.C. sections 241 and 242, deprivation of rights under Keller of law is a federal offense carrying up to 10 years in federal prison. I'm not saying you'd ever be charged federally. Odds are greatly against it. Just don't do it.
Okay. Okay, so now we're down for business finance transfer of funds. And this is what Brian had talked about in the minutes of our finance committee.
Do you want me to run that again, Mr. Chair?
I'd love to have you on that. Yeah.
I will.
On the motion.
I move to approve the transfer of up to 5% of the funds from any cost center to be used to balance another cost center. And specifically discussed at the finance committee meeting was cost center system administration, which is currently at 101%. And that was due to, I believe it was the timekeeping program. We purchased the program, but then the actual implementation put us over budget by 1%. And then the other one that is currently listed is transportation of 100.4%, and that is expected to go under 100% once things are balanced out. But there's still a possibility of it exceeding 100%. So while we were overall executing 94% in those specific cost areas, we may exceed, but within the minimum of 5%. So that's why I move to approve the transfer of funds. Move to approve the transfers of fund up to 5% of funds from any cost center to be used to balance another cost center.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, I just had a question. Are these particular cost centers historically over budget, or is this kind of just an unusual event?
So each year it depends. The last couple of years we've had several cost centers that have needed an adjustment. Special education has been one. For the report that was provided for the finance committee meeting on June 3rd, transportation being above and beyond, we have a journal entry that has to be done every year, but it can't be done until after the school year ends. And what we refer to as the blue sheets have all come back. So we reclassify athletic trips and co-curricular trips to their proper account numbers, which are not in the transportation cost center. So that's why I feel as though that transportation cost center overage will actually go below 100%, but it's listed on the sheet as going over, and that's an explanation as to why. With the system administration side, the majority, the greatest part of that is our time clock and absence and substitute system that were both implemented over the course of this fiscal year, and the implementation itself exceeded what we had anticipated that it would be. So as I explained in the finance committee meeting, there is the potential that when final invoices come through and we actually formally close that year out, it is possible that both of them could drop below the 100%. But the system administration one is not as likely as the transportation one to be able to do that. So.
Not that it matters, but did the radios go under transportation?
The radios did go under
So
transportation.
there's something that wasn't budgeted.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
I could look and see what the price of that was, but.
Are there any cons to doing this, to transferring, or is this, there's no negatives to doing it?
There are no negatives.
Actually, it's a requirement. If we don't like it, we needed to address it before it got to this point, really.
That's all I have.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstain. Okay, now, approval to apply for federal funds.
Each year, public school districts receive a notification from the Maine Department of Education with regard to how much funding will be provided under the following entitlement grants. So in Herman, we receive funding from Title 1A, Title 2, Title 3, Title 4, Title 5, and IDEA funds. The IDEA funds, and we're waiting to see our allocation there. That's exclusively for special education services. The various other title funds are predominantly to assist students who are performing below their peers or coming from underserved communities. And then there are also funds available for teacher training and professional development. The grants are due later this summer in early August, and in advance of applying for those grants, we're entitled to them, but we still need to indicate how we're going to be spending the funding. But one of our requirements is that we are required to let the public know that these funds are available to us. We will be submitting a grant application later this summer. Anyone who has any remarks, comments, suggestions on how to be using that funding can reach out to my office. I'd be happy to hear from folks.
All right, can somebody throw in a motion?
Move to approve the superintendent to apply for FY27 federal funds as presented on our agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I just want to say, in years past, I've voiced my concerns about this. And in the same token, I would like the committee to take note of $285,000 that this is bringing into our school. That's positive, and I'm very grateful to the superintendent that is being published in advance so we know what we're getting. So it's a positive we're getting the federal funding. I'm grateful that the superintendent is giving us the information. I'm now asking the committee, as I'm departing, to be aware of these federal funds and to start using them when you're looking at the next year budget process. Because on several occasions we have talked about federal funds, but you really haven't had a number to go with to use as part of your planning. Right. So please be aware that Herman is getting $285,000 plus additional special ed funding. So.
Is this 285 comparable with last year's award?
It is. And we typically, the Maine Department of Education allows us to cluster some of the various title grants together. And we do that. And this year we use it to offset 2 of our Title I teachers and 1 of our ed tech, 3 people.
Yes.
So those teacher salaries don't sit in our local budget. We are able to, through the generosity of federal funding, offset the salaries and benefits for essentially 3 staff members who support our students at the elementary school who are performing below their peers with reading and mathematics. So it's something that we always hope for every year, and we really apply it to staffing because it's the best way to use the funding, and we see the results immediately.
Okay. Yeah, Gene?
When you say you welcome the public to see you about how to allocate the funds, I think you said that. Is it too early then to kind of compartmentalize this? Should we just approve the number 285 plus special ed funding, and then maybe you can get more feedback, or is it premature?
So all you're doing tonight is you're really acknowledging this is the funding that has been made available to the Herman School Department, and you're really approving me to go ahead and submit the application later this summer. The state and the federal government really value parent input. One of the requirements of Title I is that there's a school committee that includes parents, and Dr. Davis runs that and shares data back with families and takes their input on how to improve our programming at the elementary school. And so that's why you see the requirement at the federal level with all of our entitlement funds to make sure that we're having community input and public input on that as well. So if people have programs that they think we need to be exploring or special strategies, we're certainly open to that. And then I would, in writing the application, would take that into consideration as we plan.
If I just, there's a piece of this that also is seen in the town meeting, just for your own awareness. There is an article within the town budget that authorizes the school to apply for and utilize federal funds, and this is part of it. So it's also good that we're openly talking about what the number is, because we'll be voting on it on Thursday. It's not given as a number, it's just authorizing us to review and approve it.
Right. Well, we can't really have an exact number because we got one that's to be determined.
Correct.
So,
Right.
ballpark.
But this is a big move.
Right.
I mean, in years past, it's been we authorize the grant money at the town level, and then it comes to us and we authorize the categories, but we never really see a dollar sign with it until near the end of the year.
Right. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? 2 abstentions? Thank you. All right, move to approve the purchase of the cafeteria tables that Brian had talked about previously.
Yeah. Move to approve the purchase of cafeteria tables from the Hertz Furniture at the cost of $157,996. I'm not sure whether the bids were forwarded to this group or.
That's a good question, I don't know that.
I know we looked at it.
They were in
Finance
the,
committee.
they were in the agenda for the, attached to the agenda for the meeting.
As a hyperlink?
Yes.
Because I know the finance committee had them.
Right.
And this was, if I'm not mistaken, the two-phase plan.
Correct.
Right. So, committee members, over the past several years, we've been managing the food service program that has had a unassigned fund balance, if you would, that has been in excess. And every year the state sends the district, the department, a letter saying that we're not in compliance. So this is the spend forward plan, or the get ahead of it plan, if you would, to purchase tables in 2 phases so that the food service program can stay in compliant with state requirements, but it also gets the cafeteria needed improvements in their furniture. I might have misspoke on any of that, Mrs. Youngblood.
You got it.
So Tony and I, the superintendent, and Mrs. Youngblood reviewed the bid last week. And this was their recommendations, and Tony and I agreed with it.
Second.
Okay, we got a second, good. Any discussion? Gene?
So I saw that, am I reading this right, that it was estimated at 90,000
It was
in the subcommittee?
2 phases.
I was just trying to figure out what happened, because it's now 157.
It's 2 phases. One phase was around $60,000, and the other was right around 95,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So this is the total of each of the phases.
Oh, okay. Is there another way to use the food services program excess money aside from cafeteria tables, and then maybe try to get the cafeterias in another way, like with a grant or something?
So the funds for the food service program can only be spent on the food service program. So this is actually a great way to utilize those funds. It would be counterproductive with keeping the balance within state compliance to go and find a grant to help pay for things that we already received money for through the services that we receive. Or provide, rather, sorry.
Perfect. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
It is. Can it be used for construction of the cafeteria?
It cannot, unfortunately. That's a great question. We had looked into a project that would involve kind of doing some heavier remodel, if you will. And unfortunately, because it's actually the building, it's not eligible. So it's really more for those movable type assets than it is for permanent structure type stuff.
But we did think of that, Haley.
Yeah.
When we started. Okay.
And after the purchases, on the plan that was provided to us, or the plan that we reviewed at the Finance Committee meeting, we did discuss to ensure that the food service program had enough operational funds. And I believe it was right around $175,000, so the food service program would have within their operational funds to ensure that they could continue to operate effectively.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? And 2 abstentions. All right. Move to approve the purchase of the tilt skillet.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that one?
I know I had some questions about whether the facility could receive the equipment as far as type power and plumbing. I saw that in the notes. Has there been any answer on that?
Jason was still looking at it, but when I checked with Jennifer Clavat, the food services director, the company that came in, everything we need is already right there in place, so we should be good to go. No issues.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? And 2 more abstentions. All right, now the 2026-28 student representative. Okay.
Each year, the students at Herman High School are offered the opportunity to apply to be considered to be a student liaison to the Herman School Committee. Hannah was our selectee for this year, and she'll stay on next year as a senior. So this year we had 5 students apply. And thanks to Debbie Kowalas, who joined one of our teachers, Shelley Sear, in interviewing each of those 5 students. Do you want to say anything about Peyton?
I want to just say all 5 of them interviewed very well. It was a tough decision. They all brought a lot to the table, and they're very happy to be students here and the opportunities. And I appreciate what Peyton's going to be able to bring to the table.
So the recommendation this evening is to approve Peyton Stevens as the student representative. Peyton is a rising junior, so unless she decides differently, she'll have the role for 2 years.
All right, can you guys give me a motion?
Move to approve Peyton Stevens as the student representative for 2026 through 28.
I'll second it.
Debbie seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Perfect. All right, go ahead, Barbara. Early graduation.
We have a request from a Herman High School student to graduate early. This student would be wrapping up a year early and graduate in June of 2027. Per policy, the student has submitted a plan which adequately meets all Maine graduation standards. The plan has the approval of the student's parents and the high school guidance department and the high school principal. And the final step is that it come before the school committee for your review and approval. And then following that, I sign on behalf of the school committee. I gave it to you as a PDF so you would see what the plan looked like. And I think it's solid and well sought out. I've had a number of these in my career. They don't happen often, but every once in a while we have a student who really just has a keen vision for themselves and really wants to move forward, and that's what we have here.
I get a motion?
So move to approve the student early graduation application in accordance with policy IKFA, student number 12480.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Gene.
Well, I suppose this goes without saying, but there's been compliance with all the procedures in the policy, correct? From beginning to end? With
I'm
IK.
not sure what you mean.
Oh, like everything that's outlined in the policy of what she was supposed to do from beginning to end, I'm assuming she's done it?
The student has complied.
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion? All, oh, go ahead, Brian.
I encourage the student to enjoy their senior year. To grow up too quick. If you're out there, you grow up too quick. Take your time, take a breath, enjoy your school year. It will be very rewarding for you.
Okay, all those in favor? Great. All right, move to approve second readings.
I've got notes on some of them, so can we take them quickly one at a time?
Sure.
I move to approve second reading of amend EHB records management.
Second. Okay, any discussion?
I just had a question as much as a recommendation coming from my past career. I didn't see a provision or a process for the disposal of records when the retention period expires. And in my former career, we would monthly go through our records to make sure that we retained them for the amount of time, and we did not retain records longer than they needed to be so. So I didn't see anything that explicitly wrote that in here.
Meaning how long we hold on to?
Yeah, so if the federal...
Oh, we have a whole link to federal government that dictates that to us.
So it dictates you that you need to hold a record for, let's say, 5 years. At the end of that period, how aggressively do you go through and dispose of it so that you don't have 5-year retentions that are now there for 7 years that really need to be moved along? I didn't see that explicitly written in here that it'll be done.
No, we didn't put defining language in, but it becomes our annual summer clean out where we go through the closets in the upstairs to do exactly what you described. Do you want to see that language like that put
I
in
always
there?
had it as part of my office policy was that items that had exceeded the required or recommended retention would be disposed of. So that we say we're getting rid of the stuff. It's just how long you're supposed to keep that. I'm not saying go in and identify every document or every category. There's already those requirements there. Once you've met the requirement, you need to get rid of it.
Well, firsthand, I can say that I saw Barbara and Jody in sweatpants in the closets with dust all over them a while back, getting rid of stuff.
Brian, are you looking to have it say that it's done yearly, that
Yeah.
they're reviewed yearly? Is that what you're looking for? Just something in there that say a review of records
Right.
is done yearly?
Correct. Yep. Something of that nature to be put in there.
All right, so then my recommendation would be, committee members, if you look at the first page of EHB, go to, without strikeouts, paragraph 2. The school department will comply with all applicable laws and rules pertaining to the routine retention, storage, and disposal of records, and with its obligations to preserve records when litigation is reasonably anticipated or has commenced. We could put in a sentence that says something to the effect of, ideally, this will occur annually, unless someone has another thought.
up as it's a management tool.
That sounds good to me. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I just had a question about paragraph 2 that was basically deleted, that starts with the purpose of this policy and then records is in quotes. What was the reasoning for eliminating the definition of records? Because I don't think it's defined anywhere in the policy anymore.
Committee members, you can chime in if you'd like. We find, as we're going through a lot of our school committee policies, that there's some unnecessary wordiness there. And there's been a desire in our conversations to really get right to the point of the policy. Furthermore, a lot of the cross-references and the legal references address exactly that.
Okay, any other discussion on EHB? Okay, all those in favor? Perfect.
Move to approve the amendment of EFE, competitive food service sales.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Great. And keep going.
Move to approve the abolishment of EFD, meal charging.
Second. Okay. Any discussion?
I do. I have some questions on this based on, I understand right now, and then looking at the following policy that we will be reviewing on school food service program, no cost. I recognize and understand why right now we'd be saying to abolish it because currently state funding funds us at 100% of our food service. I question whether we should abolish the policy or either suspend it or put some wording that says within the policy that this policy will not be, will be suspended as long as we receive 100% funding, state or federal funding for our food service program, so that we don't find ourselves at the end of a fiscal year with less than 100% for all students, because that is a relatively new change to the state of Maine, that all students get 100%. It's usually been those that financially qualify. We could then find, or the department could then find itself having to get a policy in place to cover this very thing that we're abolishing. So I want to put out a concern that having the policy and not using it versus getting caught without the policy.
Would you like to wordsmith that in a way it would be acceptable?
The policy is suspended when state or federal funding is available to provide 100% of meal costs, is the quote that I had down.
Okay, you guys all set with that? I mean, it makes sense.
Okay. I did a motion to get it started, yeah. I thought somebody seconded it.
I did.
Yeah. Oh, so I move to amend the policy to add, this policy is suspended when state or federal funding is available to provide 100% of meal costs. Okay. So rather than abolish it, amend the policy.
Is there a way to rephrase that to say that the state and or federal supports meals to students at no cost rather than 100%?
Absolutely.
Because the percentage is not completely.
Yep.
It's no cost
Sure.
to students is what it
Yep.
should say.
So if we're going to be adding language, I would suggest that we not approve it as a second read and that we return it one more time to committee, because we didn't look at other language on this, thinking it would just be an abolishment. And I think our subcommittee members will find other language you'd like to take a look at.
Okay.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. So we're gonna send it back, EFD back to the committee.
So then I withdraw my motion.
That's great.
withdraw your second.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay.
I move to send policy EFD back to committee.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Good. All right. Now for the no cost.
I move to amend policy EFC, school food service program, no cost state meals for all students.
Second?
Second. Any discussion?
This is EFC, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just, I guess see the paragraph that starts with in order to maximize funding? It's in red. I was wondering if we could put, where it says parents will be asked, if we could parents or guardians. Is that necessary?
Sure. Yes.
Good catch. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
I move to amend policy EBCD, school closing and cancellations.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, go ahead.
Just, unlike many policies, I didn't see any, like, at the end of it, like some citation. Was that intentional?
Cross-reference.
Cross-reference, I should say. But other than that, I have nothing else.
I don't have cross-reference.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Keep going.
I move to approve EVAB, operation and maintenance policy for asbestos.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, John. Any other discussion? Gene?
Kind of the same thing. There's no cross-reference, and I would imagine there probably should be some reference to a statute or something for this one.
I don't know that there's statute on this, but anything related to environmental conditions within facilities really comes back to OSHA standards, and that's really the guiding document for us here.
Yeah, because we still have to go by state and federal rules when they do if they pull a tile up, put a new tile down, that's gotta be done by state and federal laws anyway, and they know that, so. Okay, any other discussion on that one? Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
I move to amend KLG-R, relations with law enforcement authorities, administrative procedure.
Second. Okay, any discussion?
I do. Comes back to what I brought up last month. I recognize and appreciate the fact that the area that I was concerned about has had some adjustments and some word changes. However, the result is the same. The principal can say, I don't want you to apprehend a student in my school. So I guess the bigger question back to the policy committee is, what is the driving factor to keep this in the policy so that I'm not swimming upstream on something that may be out there already?
So we discussed this at length and reviewed the concerns that had been brought up by committee members at the previous meeting. I think one of the things that those of us who don't live in high schools regularly may not consider is that we have some students who have significant trauma in their lives related to law enforcement and family violence, and a principal who allows law enforcement to come into an English class and arrest a student in front of a bunch of 16-year-olds and bring that student out, not only impacts the climate and the learning climate of the school, it has the potential of further traumatizing other students in that class. Now, there have been instances where Mr. Walsh has explained in a very serious matter, absolutely, we partner with law enforcement, these are our partners, and we would isolate the student so that the arrest or detainment would happen privately and so that the rest of the student body would not be impacted by it. So there is a recognition that in an immediate dangerous matter, of course, we're going to take law enforcement's recommendations and work with them. But if it's something that can be handled privately and quietly and preserve the dignity and the peace of the school for that student to be handled differently, then that's the preference.
And I agree with what you just said, especially about making sure it's done as privately as possible. However, that's not what the policy says. It says generally not required to make students or student school facilities available for non-school related investigations or arrests. It doesn't say anything about trying to facilitate a effective arrest. So again, I believe it leaves the wrong message to our schools, to our students, and to our community that we're not required to work with the police on this. Because what was just verbalized to me says, absolutely, we will work with the police so that we can have a dignified apprehension of a student if, when law enforcement is seeking to execute a warrant of a student, in doing so outside of school is not feasible. So we're already saying it's not feasible outside of school. The best might be the safest option is to do it in school, and then we're turning around and saying, well, it's really not required for us to participate or to help you with this. I just think it leaves a really bad tone.
What wording would you put in there, Larry?
I would just, again, I would strike the whole thing. I mean, the way the paragraph is structured, it says when there is a warrant to arrest a student that cannot be executed outside of school hours, period. That's when we allow law enforcement to come in and do what they have to do.
So you would take that whole paragraph out and not put anything there?
If you would put anything there, it would say principal will, or administration will coordinate with law enforcement as much as possible to ensure safe, dignified apprehension of students, something in that manner. It's a much different message than we're not required to comply. Because what we just said is we don't want to comply because we don't want to put the student in an embarrassing situation. Well, the very policy is saying, well, this is the only place that we can do it. It might be for a number of reasons why we can't do it. So, again, I don't think it puts the tone that we want in the community of we want our students to comply with law enforcement. We should do everything possible to comply with law enforcement. I'm not the chair.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Well, I think I agree with Brian, and I would certainly support eliminating that paragraph. And my experience is that most law enforcement will use their discretion to cure that concern about carrying something out like that in front of a student body that could be traumatic. I think they would exercise good discretion. I also don't understand if our policy says that schools are generally not required to make students or school facilities available. I don't know what that means to the law enforcement agency, like the police department or the sheriff's office. They're still probably going to do what they're going to do anyway, I would imagine. So I just don't support this language.
And truth be told, Mr. Chair, I've talked to a couple of police officers on this just because it's rubbed me. They don't want to go into the school and do these sort of things. The law enforcement officers, they said going into a school is their last option.
And our policy starts that way by saying law enforcement officers may enter the school premises. It gives 3 examples when, and the third one, when there is a warrant to arrest a student that cannot be executed outside of the school hours. And then it goes on to say, but the principal or administration doesn't have to support it. I just think that's leaving the bag.
So you're looking to just leave that sentence in there in number 3 and just leave it that way is what you're.
That's my suggestion. Now, if administration wants to make sure that a student is, it's done in a compassionate way, wants to add language that said a principal or the administration will take whatever reasonable and safe steps to ensure that it is done in a compassionate or safe manner. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But the point to say that, we're not required, it just really, it rubs against me.
All right, so do you want to make a motion with that in it, or do we need to send it back again? I'd rather not send it back again.
Can you just, I'm sorry, Chair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brian, can you repeat what you're seeking one more time so maybe we could do a motion?
Yes, to go into the blacked out area of paragraph 3. For paragraph 3 to state, when there is a warrant to arrest a student that cannot be executed outside of school hours, period. And strike everything else. So that the total paragraph would read, law enforcement officers may enter the school premises, 1, in the event of emergency, 2, at the request of school administration, 3, when there is a warrant to arrest a student that cannot be executed outside of school hours. And then 4, exigent circumstances as authorized by law. It's clean, and it just, I think it gives a better message.
My only concern, based on how the conversation went in subcommittee, is bypassing the right and duty of an administrator to be a gatekeeper of the school. And so, your point is well taken, Brian. I'm not disagreeing with you. I do see how the last sentence could land a little hard, right? To say, schools are generally not required to make students available, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't think that would have been expressed if it wasn't legally and factually true. And so if we strike out that last sentence, so it takes out any sort of adversarialness, and then school administrators will consider requests for assistance on a case-by-case basis, because I still think there needs to be, personally, I think there should be an element of discretion at our administrators' disposal. To the point that was made earlier about okay, listen, I can't let you go into that class, but here's how we're going to work this out together. We'll call the student down, have a guidance office, whatever it may be. I don't know. Do you follow what I'm saying? There's something about the case-by-case basis that I like having it in policy, because it doesn't hamstring our administrator.
Yeah. But I think within the rest of the policy, it addresses some of that. It says school administrator, in paragraph B, shall attempt to contact a student, parent, guardians prior to allowing law enforcement authorities. So that's already in there for administrators to do.
Go ahead, Gene.
Well, I took John's point to mean more of a communication between kind of the school gatekeepers and law enforcement. It looks like letter B talks more about, communication with parents or guardians. procedure? Can we do like a motion to amend, or is that too early?
No, Brian's just gotta withdraw his original motion. No, he had an amendment.
My
in there.
motion was to amend with amend paragraph 3 to read, when there is a warrant to arrest a student that cannot be executed outside of school hours, period.
I would second that.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. All right, then the next one, amendment KLGA.
Well, technically, don't we have to approve the policy? Now we approve the amendment to the policy. Now we need to approve the second reading. So I've already made the motion to approve the second reading. There was a motion to amend it. The amendment's been approved.
Okay.
So now we have to actually approve the policy as it has been amended.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
I assume. The motion's already been made. You just need to call the vote.
I just called a vote with your amendment in it.
Yeah, but that was for the amendment. It wasn't for the actual policy.
Any other discussion then? Well, I need a motion, right?
Nope, the motion's already been made. It's been seconded.
So we just need to call for a vote
Okay,
on the
All right.
policy.
all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you.
I move to amend policy KLGA, relations with school resource officer and law enforcement authorities.
Second. Any discussion on this one?
Same thing. It's under paragraph C2, school administrators are not required. It's the exact same statement.
Go ahead, Gene.
Well, do we want to make a motion to mirror the language from the prior policy?
Yes, please. I was just flipping to the prior policy so I can have the language.
Did I get second before I started the discussion? Okay.
I believe the original paragraph in there was the same.
If I recall, the reason you're seeing that language there in red is that there was not language there earlier. And for consistency's sake, the committee felt that we should replicate the language. So if in trying to be consistent, you want to use the same language that we used in the earlier policy, Jody and I have taken notes of what that is, and we can include that.
Okay, so then you would ultimately end up striking paragraph 2. Or not, paragraph 2 was an addition, so you would not be including that, what is in red.
Or if we include it, we reflect the language changes that were just made in the prior discussion.
Okay.
The statement that you made that when law enforcement is seeking to do it and it can't be done outside of school. So
Yep.
using that same sentence in there for number
Excellent.
2.
So that comma becomes a period.
Right.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed?
I move to amend policy CBI, evaluation of the superintendent.
Second. Any discussion? Gene?
I think it's number 7 on page number 7. I'm looking for it here.
Committee will meet the superintendent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's letter on 7C, the committee's evaluation should be supported by specific examples of the superintendent's conduct, performance, and should represent the perspective of the majority of the committee. I'm still kind of struggling with that because it's just like we're meeting and we're talking and this word majority. I know we're doing like the form, right? So I guess the chair would be like analyzing the form to maybe see where there's commonality. But we're also going to be like communicating and talking during the executive session. And it just strikes me that, you know, what does majority mean? If there's 7 of us, sounds like we'd have to take a vote. We're not allowed to do that. Again, I don't want to make nothing, you know, something out of nothing, but I'm just wondering if there's an issue with that language or with that procedure, if we could run into some pitfalls with that. That's all.
It doesn't say anything about taking a vote, though. It just says perspective. So that would be the conversation, and we're all sitting at the table conversing about it. So it would be an evaluation of, an assessment of the conversation going between the members. That's how I read it, because it doesn't specifically say vote. It just is a general consensus of, you know, and if you're in the meeting and there's discrepancies, the conversation continues is how I would look at it, because it's not asking for a vote, it's asking for conversation.
And at that point, the chair has developed their summary, correct? Which is sort of a reflection of the majority opinion perspectives.
Right, correct. Okay, any other discussion? You all set with that, Gene? Leaving it in?
Ultimately, wouldn't there be a vote in public to?
Yeah, in public, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a public vote to approve the evaluation. So if you didn't like what was in it, that's when you would have that majority come into, we would end up having to vote. If you had a majority of people that disagreed with the statement, then you would vote no, and you have to go back into executive session.
Right. And you probably know what the perspective was by then.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. All right, now we'll approve to move first reading of a few of them.
Should we take these one at a time,
Yep.
Mr. Chair? Move to approve, move to amend policy EBBC bomb threats.
Seconded.
Thank you, Debbie. Do we have any discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just the page 4 or 5 where you go to civil liability. The school department reserves the right to bring suit against any individual responsible for a violation of this policy and seek restitution of the damages as permitted by law. I mean, I'm imagining that, you know, when you bring a suit against a student, that lawsuit is really going to be against the parent or guardian of that student. So I don't know if that goes without saying, or if it should be clearly stated in the policy what's really happening there.
Well, I think the reason we use the word any individual responsible is that doesn't account for age of anyone. So whether you have an outside party calling in a swatting, or you have a student calling in a false bomb threat, either way, if there are consequences to that, and there needs to be some sort of civil action taken, then the school department has the right to do that. But we particularly use the word individual because it may not be a student or a staff member. It may be, in fact, what we've seen in many instances lately is it's been someone entirely not connected to the school.
Okay, before we do this as first reading, I've got EBBC here, and I've got EBCC over here. So we need an alphabet change here, one or the other.
On the actual policy itself, it's EBCC.
Okay, are we sure? But, I mean, that's what it says on that policy, so we just need to change that. Okay, any other discussion on that before it goes back to committee? Okay, all those approve? Thank you.
I'm not gonna move to amend this, I'll move to return to committee, but I'm not gonna move to amend policy BEDH. So I do have some comments with it, so however you'd like, if you'd like to find somebody else to press that one, Mr. Chair.
Well, that's no problem. I mean, this is first reading anyway, and I mentioned a couple of things to Barbara too to look over. So why don't we just send it back to the committee to look over, if that's okay with you guys.
I move to return to committee, policy BEDH, public comment to at board meetings.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have two. One, sign up to speak conflicts with paragraph 4 in the policy. So if you look at BEDH, within the body of it, it will say that individuals who wish to speak in public comment period are required to fill out sign-in forms. That's in the first paragraph changed in red. In paragraph 4, it states, in the event of a sizable audience, the chair may require persons interested in speaking to sign up so they may be called on in a fair and efficient manner. So those two paragraphs are in conflict, so if those could be looked at. One thing that I have a definite issue with is it removes comment before agenda items. You have public comment, and then that's the end of it, is the way I read, is how I read it.
Where are we, Brian?
Within the body of it, I think it was a strikeout that prior to agenda items, you can have public comment.
Just prior to page, first page, last full paragraph, is that just prior to committee discussion of individual agenda items?
Yes.
Requiring committee action.
Right. So, while it isn't always used, I think it's very important that that option is there for public comment per agenda item, rather than having to lump it all into one public comment period. And then while there's several other items that have already been brought up in public comment, there's one piece that I would like the committee to consider, and I wish I'd moved on it last year. In the last 2 years, we had reply by the chair to public comment. It was something we did specifically last year, and we started to do it the year before. And there's nothing more frustrating to a public commenter, a public speaker, than they make a comment to the committee, and then they receive absolutely nothing in response.
Yeah.
And while we've been pretty good at that this year, we made a point of, at the beginning of the following meeting, as part of the chair's comments, they would respond to all of the public comments. And that isn't included in this policy. And I think it's an item that is needed. Nothing will bring vulgar and loud responses to a public comment session than if you feel like you're not being heard. And the best way to feel like you're being heard is if the chair then replies back at a reasonable time, which last year we thought was at the next committee meeting, at least acknowledged or responded to some form of your comment. So, and then other items I'm sure people will pick up on. So,
Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this particular policy in its totality. I guess I've been on the school committee now for a year, and again, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, Tony. Tell me if I'm not, but I've watched you as the chair conduct these meetings and with the public comment that has gone on here, and I think that you have done a remarkable job in the role as chair in terms of allowing public comment. And I can't recall an issue, and I think you've allowed people to speak freely and openly and allow them to communicate their feelings and thoughts on every topic, and you don't limit them with time, and I've seen you invite people back up. And frankly, I think that's awesome, because we're here to listen to the public, the people we're serving. What else are we doing if we don't do that, right?
Correct.
So I think you do a remarkable job, but I also think I understand the intent behind it, because all you have to do is like Google Augusta meetings or Lincoln meetings, and you can see some pretty wild stuff at school committee meetings, and maybe even here a couple of years ago or whatever it was. But the last year has been really good. I understand why it might need to be in place, but I do think it's freedom of speech is important. And it could be loud. It might be distasteful at times, but we got to be very careful in terms of how we're trying to police that. So I guess that's my major point here. But again, I understand, like, should a speaker come up to like the table? Like, I think there's policy about that. That's probably inappropriate. It seems like most people know how to comport themselves. You go to a library, the majority of people are quiet. You go to church, the majority of people know how to comport themselves. They're driving on the street, they see a stop sign, the majority of people stop at the stop sign. I think people know how to comport themselves, most people. So, at the end of the day, it just seems like this is more about I respect you, you respect me kind of thing. I think this is way too wordy, this entire policy. Could probably be just narrowed down into a paragraph, but the last year has worked, whatever you've done, Tony, so congratulations.
Well, I've been pretty liberal, and we've had students come up, and then we all applauded them, but then we had some teachers that applauded at the meeting, and I tried to quiet them down, but I probably should have smacked the gavel and said, please don't applaud. But, we just applauded for some students the meeting before, and it sounded like it was pretty hypocritical to make the teachers not be able to clap also. So, but I did screw that up. I should have, pounded the gavel and say, please not. But I have let people speak, and I started that because I wanted to turn the temperature down in the meetings, and so far it's worked. I know I haven't followed the policy to the law, and I knew it but I said it for 11 meetings or 10 meetings before, and Facebook got after me. But this definitely needs to go back for another look-see. So,
just one more point related to that. Maybe the chair should have a little more discussion about, you're kind of feeling the temperature of the meeting, and if everybody's being respectful, it just sounds like your approach works most of the time. So,
well, I knew
maybe there should be language in here about the chair having some discretion.
I knew there's a policy, but I knew there wasn't any clapping police, so I knew I was all set there.
I guess I have a logistical question about the idea of public comment being allowed, prior to individual agenda items being discussed and requiring committee action. And so I think, how do we balance our needs, to get through an agenda in a night? Like, are we recommending that there's public comment for each item? I think about all the work we just did with all those policies, and the agenda was pretty light, but pretty involved, and here we are, hour 45 minutes in, and I'm not complaining about that, but you understand what I'm saying. If there was a comment for each item, are we going to get through our business in a timely fashion, or?
That's why we set timers.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. And
the way original DED was written was, if it's not on the agenda, then it can be done during public comment. If it's on the agenda, it's done during the comment, or it's done on the agenda item.
Okay.
So as we begin to move away from that, it gets more and more morphed and more difficult to maintain.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Tony's done a nice job of allowing public comment to filter in when we're addressing individual items, and so it's felt more collaborative. It's felt more open, and so. But yeah, I guess for me it was just a practical matter that I didn't know. How do you set a parameter around that so that we're getting the work done? No, that's helpful. I hadn't thought of it that way. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All right, so our motion is to send it back, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? Thank you.
Move to adopt policy JIJC, cell phone free schools.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a clerical one that is, I think it's probably just either way mine printed or the way it was. The code on my cell phone comes out as DEDH. I'm just assuming, obviously that's the policy that we just discussed regarding public comment. So if that could be corrected to JIJC, if that is indeed the correct code. And then there was one little thing that jumped out at me, and that is items not part of an approved individual health plan. My understanding is that an approved individual health plan requires school nurse, guidance, parents get together and approve the plan, where there could be instances when a student would be having a ongoing test or a heart monitor. It wouldn't be part of an approved plan yet, but they would still need to have a device on them as part of a diagnostic health problem. And I don't think that was covered clearly in the policy. It says it was part of the individual health plan, but they may not have had the information yet to even put their health plan together. So in that sense, just want to make sure that our I's are dotted and T's are crossed when following the policy. And then the other piece is how does this affect staff, teachers, administrators to solicit cell phones and other personal electronic devices in school? I think there should be either something in this policy, I'd like to see it in this policy, or in somewhere in the faculty handbook or policies that states that personal electronic devices will only be used for professional reasons during the workday, so that they're not on social media or texting their significant other during the day, just like we wouldn't want our students to be doing it, we don't want our...
So we cross-referenced the policy that speaks to that?
It's use of cell phones, it's not use of personal devices. So if you could give that another look.
Okay, any other discussion? Yeah, Gene?
Well, just, there's nothing in here about the consequence of what would happen if the student violates this. I suppose the cross-reference at the bottom to JIC is what handles that?
That's correct. The discussion in subcommittee was that we would address this policy first and then move to review the code of conduct and put in the necessary wording once we have this policy in place.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? So we're gonna send this one back with those corrections.
Yeah, you're approved for first reading.
Yeah. All those in favor? Thank you. All right. Personnel, go ahead, Tyler. You got two people resigning?
Our practice as school committee is that we acknowledge, we don't approve resignations, and so we have a teacher who's moving on to an administrative position in the district right next door, and we have the resignation of a bus driver.
Perfect. And now we're moving down to employment. Do you want to do them as a block, or do you want to make a motion as a block of them?
Which is number?
There's a number
It's two of them.
Yeah.
I move to
Director of
approve the
Special-
superintendent's
Oh, I'm
recommendation
sorry.
to employ Alicia Staffieri, Director of Special Services, with a start date of July 1st, 2026.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, now we'll move down to the one I tried to skip. Go ahead.
Move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to employ, you want me to list them?
Can if you want.
As presented.
As presented.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thanks. All right, then move to give superintendent authority to hire teachers during the summer.
Would it,
And second.
okay, move to approve, move to give the superintendent authority to hire the teachers during summer. I move to approve the superintendent's authority to hire teachers during the summer between school committee meetings.
Second.
There we go.
Any discussion?
So would those jobs then be, or would those hires then be later approved by the committee?
They would, yes.
So then it would be a conditional hire.
You could say that.
So we don't lose the people we want.
Yep.
Correct.
So should that be put in the amendment, or put in the motion to conditionally hire teachers? Because I mean, it's never bit us before.
What our current practice is that we give essentially a promise to hire or an intent to hire letter that gives enough confidence to the candidate to know that we are moving forward with them, but that nothing is finalized until the school committee meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Just, maybe I can get hung up on words. The way that's written, it reads that we are delegating our complete authority to the superintendent. So anybody in that time frame can be hired by the superintendent. I have confidence in our ability to recommend the right person. It's still within the committee's authority to do the actual hire.
Right.
So
Are you looking to change the word the phrase authority to hire to something else?
Conditionally hire? Is that what you just said?
yeah, I'd be happy with conditional hire. Or what would you guys be happy with?
Sure. Hire teachers during summer between school committee meetings pending school committee approval. Because then it explains what the condition is, I guess.
Go ahead, Gene.
I don't mind what John said either.
No, I like that. Barbara, you okay with that, pending? Perfect. Brian, you all set with pending?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
Move to approve the special education extended school year program at their contract rate as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Actually, sorry.
Oh.
Where it says sub, and then it says ESY position. Can you just explain
Of course, it's separate, yeah.
So there may be times, although it's unusual, when the ed tech or the teacher who is teaching and involved in the extended school year program may need to be absent. We would work with our substitute list to cover for it at that point, and so that's why we don't have a name there. We would just use our substitute calling list.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. All right, number 5.
Move to approve up to 40 hours of work for Meg Garvey and Betsy Trinkman in their capacity as administrative interns to complete various administrative tasks during the summer, not to exceed 1,600 each.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Great. Number 6.
Move to approve 2026 summer curriculum writing as listed.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, number 7.
Move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint the following 2026-2027 Herman High School athletic positions as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint the following 2026-2027 Herman Middle School athletic positions as presented.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, 2
I'm sorry.
abstentions.
Okay.
Wake me up. Number 8.
Did you see any individual comments of those?
I think I had some comments about the ones we want to keep active, so maybe can we bundle all the abolished ones?
Yeah, I move to approve the abolishment of job descriptions A through D.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? They're abolished.
I move to approve the review of Director of Information Technology.
Yeah, my feedback about this one is similar to what I talked about last month, where in number 3, under qualifications, such alternatives to the above qualifications as the school committee may find appropriate and acceptable. Again, I feel like those decisions are made, and we're not the experts or the specialists in what acceptable criteria is there. So I'd defer to the superintendent or administrators on that, and then support you all on the back end.
Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Hey, John, I'm sorry. Can you tell me where you were with paragraph?
Right at the top under qualifications in number 3.
So you want to replace school committee with superintendent?
I think so.
It's not the superintendent that does the hiring, it's the school committee that's the final approval, right? I'm just trying to think that through. The superintendent provides a recommendation. We're ultimately the ones that are, it's either here or there.
Yeah, I hear that and I respect it, and then I think that the only thing that catches me about that is just the idea that the alternatives to the above qualifications, like I think when these recommendations are getting to us, we're not parsing through, whether this person has a Bachelor of Arts, or if they have a Bachelor of Science, or Master of Education, Master of Arts, right? So I think that for me, that's where I'm comfortable deferring to the superintendent or the administrators around what they're seeing is acceptable for that particular position. But I hear what you're saying too, Brian. If it does stop with us, I get that. But I just don't. I don't think we're talking through those qualifications and that in such granularity.
So are you moving to amend?
Yeah.
Okay. Second.
You moved, we don't have a second.
Good, say second.
Oh, second.
There you go. Nudge. Then you motioned, right, for an amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
And then I second.
Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, not to be annoying, but if we do that amendment, then right below it, it says reports to superintendent of schools. So you want to say such alternatives to both qualifications as the superintendent. I strike that. I don't think it's an issue. Sorry.
I just got one little typo, paragraph 7. 7 is written twice. you've read it, but if you haven't read it 10 times, you wouldn't see it, so.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Great.
All right. I move to approve the amendment of items F and G.
Oh, second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
You want me to keep going, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Here.
Sure.
Move to enter executive session pursuant to MSRA 4056A to discuss compensation of employees at 8:32. I've got hands on my watch, not digital numbers, so it's closest. 8:30.
8:30, yeah.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
We're gonna stay here.
Okay.